So, are we recording? And hopefully this week the sound will be a little bit better on Jen and I side, who had iPhone issues as we recorded. I think people need to know that. Welcome to the new episode of the Strongfit Podcast.
I didn't have enough storage and the audio didn't.
So the producer of the show had issues recording it correctly. There we go. Like
I don't think we have to start.
Assistant producer now. There you go.
I think we don't need to start this podcast with this energy, you know?
No, we're just explaining to our listeners, you know, the technical difficulty we go through on a regular basis doing a podcast. Well, those are the little issues that you have to deal with as you go. You know, like I'm getting editing. It's like, can I have the sound file? It's like, right, so about that. And I'm like, that's going well. There we go. So, new episode 175, I believe.
No, it's 179.
No, I think you missed that part of it as well. Yeah.
Am I just a horrible host?
Not host, you're just not paying attention to recordings or episode number or things. Perfect. You're there for your presence, and it's all good.
I bring personality.
So, I started the Hellfire Club on Mighty Networks. So, what is it and why did I call it that? So on Mighty Networks we have the Strongfit Multiverse, and then I created a free group that any of you can join, mostly for owners and coaches, so we can talk about business, how to apply the Strongfit principles to group classes, you know, like all that stuff that main coaches and owners need to, all the info they need to share with each other. So please go ahead. If you're a main coach or anybody that programs or anything, you can go on there, and then we're going to try to get the good conversations going. I call it the Hellfire Club, and it's important. Why? Because you should know. It comes from the 1900s in England, where the top people used to belong to not secret groups, but to, like, you know, private clubs, and then the top of the English society would meet there, but only specific people. And at some point, that name was used in an arc that was one of the best ones for the X-Men, as a group of very powerful mutants, more on the evil side of things, that got together as a club called the Hellfire Club and became mortal enemies of the X-Men. And there's an entire arc that is based on that to this day is being followed. So it was a really cool part of the X-Men lore. And so obviously, since it's a club of owners, I call it the Hellfire Club. There you go. But on it, I started to explain what was very successful for my gym, and I thought there was some, it started a cool conversation, so I thought I made a podcast out of it, because we were talking about, you know, like the way I structure my gym and things like this, and I wanted to explain a little bit what the setup was and what I saw was work really well. Okay. So I had a gym that was mostly one-on-one, right?
Was the gym in Torrance?
The Torrance, yeah. It started in Palos Verdes. It was called District B3 back then, and then eventually it turned before Strongfit. Yeah. Right? Why District B3? Oh, well, if we're gonna go at it, let's go at that one. So District B3 was because there's a French movie about parkour named District B13. And that you have to check it out. Oh yeah, I never showed you that one. You have to check it out. They have it with subtitles, so you're just going to suffer through the French accent. But David Bell was one of the main guys that created parkour. There was it's around the same group of people around the same time, but David Bell was instrumental in this. And it was a small movie done with a guy who was mostly a martial artist, and so it's an action movie, but that incorporates a lot of parkour in it. And then there's a very, very famous scene where David Bell escapes a group of guys chasing him, and it's non-stop with basically he's the stuntman, and there's no trick. He's doing everything that he shows you, and it's amazing to watch. And so that movie I thought was awesome because the guy is parkour. The way he controls his body is amazing. You see that on little stuff, it's amazing, but there's also martial arts and action. So I was like, this is what I would like training to be, you know, because martial arts and then the parkour, liked a little bit of strength, but overall it was cool. So it was an influence for my gym. And because at the time in my first gym in Palos Verdes, funny story, is I built a structure to do a little bit of parkour stuff. So of course, not understanding business because I'm just opening my gym. I literally had welded poles and stuff in my gym, cost me about $7,000 or $8,000, which of course I had to take so much money to get out everything you don't want to do. Don't weld, like literally.
Is that also your motivation to start this group because when you first started your business?
Nah, it's part of the folklore of the gym. Like literally, we had a beam, like a metal beam, like like that thick, like the stuff that you see for trains, like welded into the gym, like the big ass one, welded into the gym on huge columns of metal about that thick. The whole thing cost me $5,000 to do pull-ups. On. You could hang a car out of it and you would have held it. And I did that just for the pull-up station. Then I used that 2 other ones.
But why did you want to go at that?
Because it looks so good. Because if you're gonna do pull-ups, it has to be out of a rig made out of a fucking like beam and metal, and it looked awesome. And that's money you should never spend. And yeah, because I knew better, obviously. And so that was the first one. So out of that, I didn't want to call it District B13, obviously, but so District B3 because I came up with a cool logo that looked like this, right? So because it was a B and a 3, but reversed. I mean. So there was a B reverse and a 3, and at the same time, he was shaped like the symbol for the Moon Knight, who's Mark Spector, who's one of my favorites, good guy, bad guy of the Marvel universe. Yeah. So
that's a lot of meaning.
You know there's a Punisher.
In what?
The Punisher. Oh, for fuck's sake. Like there's a Punisher, right? Well, there was another guy who was like a good guy, bad guy named the Moon Knight, Mark Spector, and again, like so his symbol was something like that, and that's what he threw at people because he was a reincarnation of Khonshu, the god of revenge under the Egyptians, the old Egyptians. So he was revived by the god of revenge, and he becomes. He's a psychotic son of a bitch, but he's going to be revived as the Moon Knight. And so he has those moon crescents that he throws at bad guys. And so I had that moon crescent basically done like this for my t-shirts because it was a D, a B, and a 3. So District B3. It was cool. It was a really good idea. And the t-shirts were badasses. So the t-shirts were like that. And then you had a crescent going into the armpit and in the back. It was the most badass t-shirt.
Why did you change the name into Strongfit?
Because I got convinced it was better for business.
By?
Typical business people. Oh. From the beginning, everybody very kindly explained to me how I should be doing better and in the process fucked up all my best ideas. That's been going on for 8 years. No, 13 years. Wow, I opened in 2008. Shit, it's been 13 years.
That's crazy.
No shit, wow. So yeah, for the last 13 years, I had business people very kindly explaining to me how to fuck up my business. And every year, I ruined the best ideas one at a time. Anyway, so one of the best ideas I didn't ruin, because obviously it was training. So what I saw, so again, I had a gym that was a one-on-one gym, not a group class. So I had group classes for Jiu-Jitsu, but I had actually a CrossFit affiliate for a few months, but with the main coach, we did not get along anyway. He was a friend, but I ended up being a terrible backstabbing son of a bitch who stole money from me and stuff like that. Like, so fun times having a partner, right? So I ended up firing him, obviously. But the CrossFit we had for a few months. And I faced a problem very early on. So I'm explaining this because I want to say what worked for me in my gym, but you do have to understand that it was not a typical CrossFit gym. I had most of my clientele were one-on-ones. That's really where I made my money. And I had one group class a week only on Saturday, but that became the cornerstone of my gym. So I won't explain how all that happened, but to explain, I did have a CrossFit gym for a little bit, but I ran into the same problem, which I was getting very frustrated at one person moving incorrectly and not being able to help that person while the other 10 were doing stuff. And so I found that interesting now looking back, because that's exactly what we were talking about, like sprinting versus bodybuilding type of, sprinting versus endurance, strength versus bodybuilding. So CrossFit in that sense is more toward the endurance thing, which means all sessions matter. Like, you're not going to get the most out of one session. What's going to be very useful for you is 12 weeks, 16 blocks of progressing your cardiovascular capacity versus just doing a 16 block of overall strength or things like that. That's what works really well for CrossFit. It's more like a 5K mentality, and you should approach it as such, which means you don't want to go ballistic on one session, one movement. What you want to do is get a little bit better at that movement and apply it in a workout and hurt yourself a little bit less, and over time you're going to move better and better and better and better. So there's that 5K mentality that you need for group classes. I did not have that. That is not what I do. Me, it was sprint, strength all the way, which means I go ballistic on any movement that is not the way it should be. So I'm much more on the one-on-one side of things because of the way I see things.
So that's how you designed your gym too, by the
Right.
coach you are, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, but if you look, the coach that I am is based on the athlete that I am. I'm the all output all the way. I can't do whatever I do. It has to be like super focused, but that's me all the way, right? So that who you are defines how you're going to train. Once here and there, we're going to start the trash talking. I'm all for it. Just check your phone, make sure you're recording. She started it. I have witnesses now. You say you didn't want that energy in. It's going to come back. I'm just saying. So who you are, you see that in chess. Like, for example, chess players, you can tell who they are by the way they play. Some will be more offensive, take huge risks, don't grind, it's a little bit the same with training and especially with coaching. Is you have to understand who you are, because that will decide what you can be consistent with. And so if you had given me a gym where I had 6 group classes a day overstop, I would have quit within a year or two, because I would have burned out, because it wasn't the way I looked at things. So for me, it was always one-on-one, fix people. Don't let them move incorrectly. I hate to have people having tendinitis. To me, the greatest failure as a coach is when one of my athletes gets tendinitis. Because tendinitis means you did a faulty movement pattern again and again and again and again and again, and no one caught it, no one stopped you from doing it, no one did their, in my opinion, job. It's not true, because if you're going to run marathon and everything, once in a while it pops up because it's a different idea, right? But me, that's exactly what I was fighting against. So that shaped my gym into not being a group classes type stuff. I was more the one-on-one. That does not mean group classes are not a good idea. And it turned out the group class became the cornerstone of my gym. And so how did it start? So we ended up with something we call Squaterday, which means we would squat at 10 every Saturday, right? And let me explain to you how that started. So we would squat at 10 every Saturday, and then after that we would do Strongman. And the Strongman would take us till 1. So we had 3-hour sessions every Saturday that were so bad. It was just murderous stuff. It was so bad, I stopped people from drinking. Yeah, because they could not drink, and then they were so wasted on Saturday, they didn't want to drink either. So literally I had people saying you ruined my social life. The sessions were so hard, and I had not pro athletes, I had just regular people that enjoyed the beat down to the point where we had 3-hour session every Saturday, and people we went on for years doing that.
A lot of fun, though.
It was so much fun. It was so much fun. And it became the cornerstone of my gym, because out of that, people started bringing their friends, and then their friends would come do the Saturday. So after a while, I started charging a drop-in fee, $20. But when you have 10 people coming every time, you ended up being a very good source of cash. You make $200 every time. You paid for for lunch, dinner, stuff he paid for the weekend, basically. And it ended up being a really cool thing. And out of those people, you get more clients, you get the word of mouth. So I started to be known around from all the people, mostly CrossFitters, that came for that session, because they would come once in a while. They couldn't do it every week because they get plastered. But I got my name out there, and especially as a guy who tortured people. And so,
did it also improve your one-on-ones? People stayed from the Saturday?
People came. Yeah, they go that was great and everything was that. But you see, this was a problem. So he gave me one-on-one because it provided a place where I could show my craft. Just like Instagram allows tattoo artists to show what they do, that Saturday session became a place where I could show my craft. I would murder people to the nth degree. But then as we did that, we also showed imbalances on the squat and stuff like that. So he showed like the spirit of the place in a great way. And so that became really the cornerstone of everything that I did. And on top of it, it's funny how that works, right? Like I started to do the podcast with that. Like I started to know people because once I started to do that, they knew there was Strongman stuff. So they would see it because I would show on my small Instagram, followed by 2,000 people. Oh, it's not that small because that's your number too. But told you I would get you back. Told you I would get you back. So, like for example, that's how my friend Scott found me and brought me Valerie Robol to train, because at the CrossFit game at that time, they would start to bring Strongman stuff. And so they go, who trains Strongman in LA? Well, there is that guy in Torrance. And so they start bringing me like that. And then the hosts, Scott and Armen of the Strongfit Podcast, came to train with me. I murdered them. They talk about it on their podcast. And then slowly but surely you move forward and then you learn and you go. So that's what developed my gym to the outside eye. It wasn't how good I was at assessment, how assessing imbalances, at fixing them or whatever. What made me known in that area of Los Angeles was the murderous session on Saturday. It's funny, huh? That works.
That's cool.
So that's what brought everything forward. And I had that selfie every time I murdered people. Well, I was like this.
Training yourself that Saturday session, right?
Oh yeah.
So you're also proving that you're doing this stuff yourself too.
Oh yeah. Well, but that's how it started. It was my session.
Yeah.
So how did it start? So it started like one day. It's a Tuesday, I remember. It was 3 o'clock, and I'm squatting, and then here comes into the gym Sam Alduenda, who will become my powerlifting coach for over 5 years, right? 2 times world champion, won the nationals from 50 to 65 every year. 15 times I'm a national champion, US champion. Won every year, all the masters, and became world champion twice. He walks in the gym, so you have to understand, Sam Alduenda is about 5, am I going to be nice? Probably under 5'8", honestly. He's like meter 770. Yeah, I'm thinking. I might be generous, honestly. He weighs, I remember he lifted in a 162-pound weight class. So his weight is 70-ish kilos. So he's a small guy. He has no legs. He has the skinniest leg you've ever seen. Skinnier than mine, I kid you not. But a fairly buffed upper body. And he's walking in with his pants that show legs that big. And I don't know if you remember, but bodybuilding in the 80s, they had those huge sweaters with a cutout neck and then the tank top under it.
I saw it on the...
Did you ever see those things?
I saw yesterday.
Right, so yeah, right, that. So he's wearing that and it's bright yellow. He's wearing a bright yellow gold gym cutout sweater, you know, that shows the pecs and everything. And he has this perfectly shaped white hair.
Iconic.
Mexican dude. Mexican-American dude, but like perfectly shaped hair and everything. And he's walking into my gym. And you go like, oh, old school bodybuilder, except he never worked his legs. So just upper body and everything. So, and he's walking in and he's like, I can help you squat. I can teach you to squat.
He came to you, but how?
Because he lived in Palos Verdes and then he saw the gym and he's been in the strength world for so long, he does that. He walks in, he loves to train people. So he's like, oh, what are you guys doing and everything? And like, I can help you squat. I was like, and this is where my grandmother gave me the greatest gift. One of the lessons, what you respect your elders. And so I'm like, well, thank you, sir. I would appreciate that. Yeah. Because he's an elder. Like the coach of the CrossFit gym is like, fuck him, dude, he's a bodybuilder. Tell him to go away. And I'm like, nah, dude. He's over 60, he's an elder, like you shut up, like that's not how this works. Like, plus he has a wealth of knowledge, there's some good points here and there. It's Jimi Hendrix, for example, the great guitar player, was talking about that once, like he would spend 2 hours in shitty bars listening to shitty bands, just because, for the opportunity maybe to hear a sound he liked. And so he would go to those places, and out of the 2-3 hours, he would pick up certain things that he would use for his own music. That's a craft. That's how you become better. Is you spend 2 hours listening to a shitty band for the possibility of one sound that you might like. That's the price. And so when he walks in, I was like, no matter what, the bodybuilder that spent like the last 50 years training has some pearls of wisdoms that I can use. And he looks to be a cool guy. I like his hair. If anything, he can show me upper body tips. You know what I mean? And so he's like, I'm coming back next Tuesday, and then we squat. I'm like, all right. So we do the first session. He's like, you have a very strong good morning. I was like, yes, I would agree with that, because I wasn't squatting, I was doing a good morning, really. And he was like, we can improve. So he started to show me stuff and everything. But the end of the session, I'm like, ooh, like, who are you again? Because you're not a bodybuilder. You know weight. I know coaching. You're way too good at this, and you know way too much. You're too subtle in your changes to be a bodybuilder, because you're not trying to make me fit into a cookie cutter squat. You're trying to improve my positioning based on fit like this, get your hip this way and everything. I'm like, that, I can tell. I'm like, Craftsman, I know the difference between the two. I'm like, so who are you? Sam Alduenda. The name sounds familiar. And then I look him up and I see him twice world champion. I'm like, oh shit. And by the way, so 162 pounds, right? So again, like 72, so 73 kilos. Right, lifter. He squatted 515. So 240 kilos. Bench press 360, so he bench pressed 160 kilos, more than double his body weight. Right, over 50. At the time, he's well at his best at 60. 59, 60, whatever I was. So at 60, he bench pressed twice his body weight. Yeah, and deadlifted 550, so 250 kilos. At 71, in front of me, he did 180 for 5. No problem. I think he even pulled 200 with no problem for reps. I've seen him squat over 3 plates in front of me, over the age of 70. So double body weight squats for like 3 reps in front of me. Yeah. At the age of 70. I know. Like you go, shit, with no legs. No legs. Like the skinniest leg ever. Yeah, it was crazy. So he's coming and I'm making progress slowly because I can't squat, but man, he's making progress. And that's a really cool session. And so at some point, like, so I'm starting to get into Strongman and I'm getting stronger, so everything is going well. And I decide to start to do like sled sprints and things like this in a parking lot because I need that type of work, right? And then from there we switch from Tuesday to Saturday for whatever reason, and then I do my squat, and then I go in the parking lot and I finish with the sled work and stuff like that. And then I have some people training with me back then, and they start doing the sled work with me. And I'm like, are you guys, you sure? Because it's pretty violent, right? And they're like, yeah. So they do the sled with me. We murder, like, because on top of it, the parking lot was inclined. So going down and up was murder. I wasn't even doing the rope pulls. That came a little bit later, but we're just doing sled sprint, drags, and then eventually we incorporate the harness. We did drags and sprints from the beginning. Then it was the harness, then the rope pulls came about, then we're doing tire flips. We started to do more of a strongman type session. And then Sam, at the end, Sam would see them coming and they go, oh, why don't you guys join next week for the squat session? And I was like, nah, it's my session. Like, I don't want them messing with me and everything. So I was like, well, we can start with 1, and then before you know it, it's 5. And so then we start squatting, and then we start doing more strongman, and 5 turned into 10. And then suddenly I have my one-on-one clients. I was like, if you want to try, but they were like, what do you guys do on Saturday? I was like, well, there was sled and everything. And I remember one of the earliest one was 2 ladies. Was it Misty and was probably, yeah, it was whether the first one. I think the first one was a private client that I had, a lady in her 50s, I think. And I'm like, well, I don't know if you're gonna like it. Like, it's a sled work and it's murder. And she comes and she destroys the sled. Like, she's pushing so hard, like much less weight and everything, but she's not shying away, on the contrary, and she's loving that. She's like, oh, that feels so good in my legs. She's dying, but she's pushing to the point where she was equaling the guys in intensity. So I was like, and she finishes and she's like, I loved it, I'll be here next Saturday. I was like, really? Like, I didn't expect women over the age of 40, she's a top lawyer for Toyota, to enjoy such a murder session like that. I was like, all right. And then over time, he was like, well, do you want to try the squat? And then she liked it. And so Sam loved coaching people. So over time, over the course of 1 year, he went from 5 to 10 to 15 to 20. I had to cap it at 25 because it was just impossible to fit that many people.
Oh, yeah, 25 people?
I went regularly on 20 people. on a regular basis.
Jesus.
Yeah, 10 was a small group.
That's really
Like, so we had to rotate. We had 4 squat rack, and we had 3-4 people per rack, and then we rotate like that. So we had like almost like a military structure, because otherwise you waited too long.
Yeah.
So we had to just go. So we had special pegs made so that we could move the bar without having to unrack or whatever. So we had the 3 peg stuff where we can put the bar at different height, because you had different heights of people squatting in the same rack. So we organized people per height, per strength, and then we had 4 squat racks, and then we started rotating like that. It was crazy. Yeah, it was crazy. So we had the squat session followed by it was a 3 hours, just let's blast everybody. And started and then when I moved in Torrance, I had a long parking lot, even better. And then that's when I had, regularly 15, 20 people. And we started to develop, and back in Palos Verdes, we started to develop a powerlifting team. And that was actually a really cool experience. So we ended up taking, on average, like 5 or 6 people, I think. We probably went to 8 or stuff like that, but I think on average 5, 6 people. There was like 2 competitions per year where we took people. So we did 10 total, but we did that for like 5 or 6 years. Like we had like 2-3 guys and like 4 or 5 women. Yeah, and then we actually had some very strong men out of that. But that was such a cool stuff for the gym, because first of all, you have an entire team, but also we would show I would post on Instagram the stuff, but we took 2 people to competition, and then they keep getting better year after year after year, and then they started posting some really, really good numbers. And then that session became it was a squat session, and the strongman became the cornerstone of the gym. Then after that, those people would come during the week to deadlift and bench press, and trying to get better at, for the powerlifting numbers. And that's something that I learned, is that the powerlifting team actually was a great way to motivate people toward training, because you have to get better at bench press. All right, so that means the rope pulls. That means you have to learn to find your pecs, your lats, your stuff. So that, and then for women, like conditioning was a good thing, because there's weight classes in powerlifting. So you want to go a little bit under, and so conditioning was like naturally they were asking for conditioning. So I used a lot of CrossFit. That was helping the ladies the most. And then like it goes on and on and on. And then if you're hot, you can't lift as well as you should. So suddenly the assessment became important. And so what was originally my session became the cornerstone of the gym, where, but more than from a marketing perspective, it became the soul of the gym.
Yeah.
Which was a one-on-one not a one-on-one session, it was a group session, but that was what gave a direction to the gym.
Yeah.
Like if you have a ship, you need a direction to go anywhere, otherwise any port will do, right?
And it comes naturally. I think that's the most important thing when it comes to marketing, is that it's close to the heart, and that it's
right. And so you don't have to do anything. You don't have to, because the first thing they ask you in marketing is which direction are we going, right?
That's your unique selling point.
Right, exactly. And then I didn't need one, because all I had to show was the soul of the gym, the direction naturally we were taking. Yeah. And I realized like training people is great, but not that competition is required, but having a goal, having a direction helps tremendously. Yeah. That's what we see with CrossFit. Like those local competition help motivate people to stay on track, which is the hardest thing, to be consistent, to put the energy into the training.
Yeah, when I had my running classes back in Holland, that's what the people that were running a race like a 5K or a 10K, they were always so motivated. They came with questions prepared. They were willing to run outside of the class. They're
willing to do extra work.
Yeah, and they paid attention in the class because they're trying to learn something there, and they were there for a goal. Even though it was a local competition and it was not a big deal for them, even the competition was not, a life of that situation. It was just something that they.
But it doesn't matter, because when I ran the 5K, I ran it in a local competition. I didn't care if there was a good guy. There was one guy who ran under 15 minutes. So there was like Palos Verdes had a lot of runners. But for me, I didn't care. I was like, that was the time. It's like, can I go under 22 minutes? Yeah. I mean, like, for me, that was the only question. I didn't know much about running, but when I ran in the 20s, low 20s, I was like, all right, like that wasn't bad. But right, but like, if I did it by myself, it's not the same as with people passing you, because that's always hard mentally, but then trying to pass them back. Like the whole thing was was a cool setup. It motivates you to give it your best. And so not just for marketing, first of all, for the direction of your gym, for the soul of the gym, I think to have a team, personally, I think is very important. Can be a powerlifting team, like start with whatever you have, but even in endurance club, like that's not that hard to set up. Things like this, I think will shape you. It'll be awesome for your marketing. It'll be awesome for the soul of your gym. And I got to tell you, as a coach, it's going to make your life a lot easier because people will be a lot more dedicated. And you'll get like private classes, private sessions out of it with people that know they need to work on their hammies or stuff like that. Like I don't think things would have gone, I know things would not have gone nearly as good without the Squaterday. And that's what people related to. It's not my assessment, it's not what I know, it's not that. It's like for a long time I was known for the selfies I was taking, where I was just murdering people. That's what people remember out of the barbell shrug, is just me killing the host. Like Chris and like all those guys, I just murdered them and people were like, oh, like what was that? Like burn the question was there. But and even for me, training, it was a lot more fun to do it with a team. That's the thing, is there's a lot of stuff you want to do one-on-one when you want to be precise, right? But like Olympic weightlifting, stuff like that, like a class of 10 is a nightmare. Like it's 1 or 2 at most, so you have a coach paying attention. But when it comes to murdering yourself with a sled or strongman, you're going to do much better in a class environment. So for the studios out there and stuff like that, like start a team. Start a powerlifting team, go compete twice a year, start an endurance class, compete not too often because otherwise you're going to get the psychos. There's always those ones, right? But twice a year, just it brings a consistency to your gym.
You relate better when you have like some type of goal, right? That's what
it makes them train
with the runners.
Always.
As soon as they have some type of goal, they will be more present in their workout because they want to get something out.
But that's because like the problem like that I see with a lot of my coaches is like a lot of them have group classes, but group classes only. And it's very hard to make great progress with group classes only. Don't like, make no mistake, even in CrossFit, those top athletes, they have coaches that look at them and them only to know what's wrong, and then design programs for them and them only. Like this, you still need that. You need a coach to pay attention to you. So there's a place for group classes, but there's also a place for, adapting the programming just to you and doing stuff like that. So, but a lot of my coaches end up with, coaching 6 classes a day, which is a massive amount of stuff like that. And sometimes they don't know how to adapt the Strongfit principles, which I understand fully. But this was to say that I do not underestimate the power of the group class, because that was really the soul of my gym, was that one. But I think like business-wise, there's a lesson to learn from that. Like if I were to open a gym, that's the first thing I would establish is the Saturday session. It'd be that, and after you're off for the weekend, but that would be that first, and then I would work my backwards from that session. And it was 3 hours, not necessarily the best idea. And I had regular people willing to go through it. It was crazy. But then the powerlifting team, that became the core group of my gym, was the powerlifting team. Like it was, because we all compete together and we're there and everything. Like that created such a cool community. Yeah. Then it was, barbecues, and then we all end up at each other's house, shit like that. It created such a cool community at my gym. So that competition aspect, controlled, right, is a very, very important thing. Like, so you don't want to do it just for marketing and start to lose track of how this goes, right? Because like, how many sessions like that can you have a week, by the way? It's Saturday, that's it, right? So, but I think there's a way there that I wanted to explain, because I believe that was a foundational thing for me. And so I wanted to explain a little bit how it worked. I didn't have coaches, it was just me. So that's not the best business idea, by the way, but the whole gym revolved around me, because I was the only coach there. For the same problem I had with group coaches is I could not take coaches not doing things where I thought was the correct way. So the dude with jiu-jitsu I fired. So my really first coach is Richard. That's really the first coach that I got to shape. But he had his own gym, so he was doing his stuff at that gym. Still, I mean, like I never took coaches in my gym. Like I had, by the end, I had like 2 ladies that were there because they were doing really good work and they understood the principles. Because like I had Devon, if you're listening, who came strongest, such a strong motherfucker. Bench press, 190 kilos, I think. He was in the 7, so he was in the 320 kilo deadlift. He was so fucking strong with a tiny waist, looking like a bodybuilder.
Really?
Yeah, I thought he was just a bodybuilder. Turned out now he's not just a bodybuilder. He was a really strong dude, right? But him and his wife were doing like good work in the gym. So, sorry. By the end, I was more receptive of having coaches, but at the beginning, I couldn't. What I realized too is like no coach is going to come as a finished product in your gym. If they come to you, unless they're paying rent, but if they come to you, that means they want to learn from you. Right, so accept that, shape them into what you think is the correct way of coaching, allow them to make mistakes, and take it as an endurance event, not as a sprint. Me, again, that mentality of a sprinter that I took way too far in way too many things did not allow me to shape coaches as I could have, and should have probably.
So do you think that when it comes to business side, you had to learn that endurance mindset?
Yes, I think business for a gym is going to be the endurance mentality. You need the group classes. You need to shape coaches. You need to understand that things take time, mistake will be made, and that you don't have to focus so hard on every single step. It's not micromanaging, but just like everything does not have to be perfect all the time. That's the sprint mentality you have to let go of. And in a way, that's what I was able to do on Saturday. Because like, it's 15 people, we're doing Strongman, the sled doesn't require you. With the sled, I didn't even coach people. I was like, drag it, go over there, don't lean forward, just stay on your tippy toes, body back, but just fire your feet really fast. That's why I love Strongman, because it was so easy to coach, right? So I didn't have to coach. I'm like, just take it and go until your quads can't move anymore, and then go 10 more meters. I was literally in session. So I was able to have that endurance mentality when it came to Squaterday. That happened to be the best session of my gym. So there was a lesson for me there that I didn't even see at the time.
So is that also the advice you would give to someone who's coaching a lot of group classes to go more towards the strongman stuff?
That's a long conversation, but do I think strongman movements are better for group classes? Yes, because they're much easier to coach. Like, how long does it take to teach a power clean to a normal person? 2 years, stuff like that. I can teach it to you with a sandbag in 12 minutes. Yeah. Like, so there's no question that strongman movements are first of all, carries are beneficial for everyone. I don't care who you are, and everybody should be doing them. And it's such a low S on strongman movement that they are beneficial to anybody and should be used far more than they are. There's no question. People fell in love with gymnastics and Olympic weightlifting because they're the 2 hardest, most technical sport out there. But they're doing it in an endurance form. No, you can't. You can't. That's why you see the problem with shoulder and keeping and all that stuff is most of the people out there do not at the level necessary to be able to do gymnastic and Olympic weightlifting at a high level, at high intensity over a course of 20 minutes. No shit. Could have guessed that one, right? But people fell in love with I'm a badass. Yeah. No, you're a hurt person. That's what you are. And so that was killing me. And so when I use dumbbells more than barbells. By the way, that was early CrossFit. Early CrossFit had way more dumbbell workout than they did barbell workout. They usually had short workouts. The hero workouts came later or stuff like that. Once the CrossFit game started, it changed the nature of CrossFit. But back then, the point was just to blast yourself like I do with a sled. So it would have been far more interesting to go toward those types of movement. But the problem was Greg Glassman only had $5,000 to open his gym, so he chose a barbell because it was more convenient. And so from there, Olympic weightlifting, he had great athletes coming to his gym who could learn either new Olympic weightlifting or got good at it fast. Great. That's not the case for most people opening gyms out there, right? So there's a whole argument there. But yeah, I believe that strongman movement are far superior. Like a sandbag squat is so much easier to learn than the barbell back squat. So much easier. For the same results, without the injuries and the pain. And the pains of coaching and learning associated with it. So it's far more effective. And that's a very important point that, again, I missed completely back then, is there are two types of things. There's the sprint mentality, and then there's the endurance mentality, and they shape an arch. But you need both sides of the arch, as usual, for it to work. I did not have that. And that's why my business also was so slow to take off and stuff like that, is because I could not have that endurance mentality when it came to business, which I still don't have. I see the necessity for it, so I'm trying to get better at it, but it's still a struggle for me because that's not who I am. I'm neural output, sprint strength, like 100%. That must compose like 90% of my DNA. I'm incapable of going outside of it mentally or physically. That does not mean you do not need to learn the 5K mentality so that you can be better. It's an arch. You need both sides of the equation. So that's why. And that goes for business, that goes for training. If you're a strength athlete, still do your Q-1 10 minutes every morning. You need some level of cardiovascular activity. Otherwise, you won't be able to recover fully anyway. If you're an endurance athlete, you need some strength. Otherwise, your hips will break, your feet, your knees, your back. It's always an arch, always. But it's the same thing for business. Like you have that sprint mentality on one side, but you need the endurance one. So you need the group classes, but you need the one-on-ones as well, so you can fix people. Like it's always an arch, man.
So what else do you think reflects in your business where your sprint mentality? What else does it?
Well, it's you see.
Is it just the one-on-ones? What else did it bring for you?
Well, the assessment system, like to be able to do an assessment, that's a sprint mentality all the way. You can't do that in a class. Yeah. Right, but one-on-one, I get full focus. I see someone move, I understand the pattern. I make them move for an hour, different exercise. I get to choose exercise, the rate of the exercise, the speed, rest, don't rest, and you're tired, good, keep moving, so I can see where. So I get to, control all the variables, so that I can come to a better conclusion. Yeah. That's sprint all the way. So for an assessment, you need the sprint mentality. You need full focus for an hour. So it's not enough to just make them do openers and see what's wrong. It's just how you moving, like there. So I'm always like, I do it fast now, but I'm looking at everything moving at the same time, and then there's a pattern, and then sprint all the way. All the way. That's why there's only so many assessments I can do before I start losing it. That was my problem during Coaches Week. I would have to take it more as an endurance because it's 4 days of 8-hour days, right? But I can't as a sprint guy. It's very, very hard. So I managed to have the right mentality when I do seminars, where I'm like, I understand it's 2 days, there's time, but there's breaks, so I can just sprint and then relax. So
make it an interval.
It's different. Yeah, make it an interval-based stuff. So, and when it comes to business, that's why I have to learn, because I'll never be an endurance guy, but to be at least be able to do interval trainings. Sprint, relax, do it again. Sprint, relax, do it again, which I'm getting better at, slowly but surely. Right. But I learned so much from that session. So for your gym, again, like I think it's a cornerstone of a gym that's what I would do. The first thing I would do is create that session a day form for so many reasons. For the business, for marketing, creating teams, for the soul of the gym, for my own personal growth in understanding sprint versus endurance mentality.
Making coaching too, because it's so much fun, right?
Yeah, it was so much fun. And by the way, I trained that was my session of the week. The main session was Saturday. I murder myself every time. But I murder myself. Why? Because I had my crew with me. Yeah. And my crew, everybody knew he was going. Trash talk the whole time, but push as hard as we could. It was the shit.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Oh, it was so much fun. And it was absolutely hard. So it's funny how this works, right? But the bond you create in those murderous sessions is 20 times the bond you're going to create running a 3K or 5K with someone. That's not a bond. Bonds are forged in fire. That's what the Saturday session was. It was fire. So the bond created there, that's why you see the military doing it like this with Hell Week and stuff like that, because it creates a connection with people. And that was the best thing that happened to my gym. But best thing that happened to me, my own training, my own coaching, philosophy of life, man, that session, that's where the Burn the Questions was created. Mm-hmm. That was the best thing that ever happened to me, was that Saturday session. So I highly, highly, highly recommend you try that one. Center your gym about that stuff and see a core group emerging, and there's an advice. I don't like to tell people what to do, but there's an advice from me is that one. Just create that session. Yep, no question.
So I wish I could go back in time and join one of those sessions. Sounds really cool.
I wish I could go back. I would die right now. I'm not in the shape I was in back then. I mean, I'm leaner on everything, but I can't do what I was doing, and that's going to take me a while to go back there. Yeah. And like, because you do it every week, you build up. Like, but the squat sessions, like Sam was a monster. Like, he made me do like 90% for four sets on a regular basis, which is insane. Most programs will make you do 80% for four sets. Me, I was at 90%. So that means that at my best, that means 500 pounds for four sets of 4. That is absurd. 90%, women can do that. For men, it's murder. It's murder. So like he would just, like Saturday, I was destroyed in a ball. Because, by the way, so it was squat, right? And then after the squat, I would do yoke carries. So I just squatted 4 sets of 4 or 500. Then I go 800 pounds at least. Then farmer's walk. And farmer's walk means like 300 pounds per hand. Off we go. Then I go row pulls, and then we start the sled. Because you have to understand, it was row pulls, overhead carry, yoke carry, farmer's walk, sled drags, harness, sprints. And sometimes we finish sandbag carries. It was 2 hours. Yeah, pounding. 2 sets, max weight on the yoke carry, and then row pulls, overhead yoke carry, one of my favorite, and then we finish with the sled. Imagine drags into harness, then we do the 200 meter around the parking lot to murder everybody at the end. Oh, it was those 3 hours were just, it was ridiculous. I'm not sure it was a good idea, but it doesn't matter. It shaped everything. But yeah, it was murder. It was murderous sessions. Like when I look back at the amount of work in those 3 hours, it was crazy. The poundage on my back was crazy.
To the sessions we did in Amsterdam?
Not even close.
Really?
Not even close. Multiplied by 2, if not 3. Yeah, because we squatted first. So your hips, everything is shot from the squatting. It's a lot of weight on your back. So your back is shot, like your whole system from the strain is shot, and then you go into yoke carries, that's more weight on your upper back. Overhead yoke carry, that's, like the whole thing is shot. Row pulls, we just murder. So you're like this everywhere, and then the work starts. Then sometimes farmers walk, usually. So now like all upper back is shot at this stage, right? It was like, all right, it's shot, so let's do legs. So that are tired from squatting, but now you do the drags and you do the harness. And the harness is the one where I passed out that one time. Sorry, I fell asleep on the parking lot. Yeah. Oh yeah, full blown. Like I remember fully. I have the time for that one. Cool. I remember fully. Like I put 18 plates on the. I still remember on the sled. I'm not finishing. Not sure if I was too sure or not. But I go to the end, and then I stand up and I'm like, ooh, things are rotating weirdly around me like this. And I'm looking back at the gym as like, ooh, I can't make it. It's like 100 feet, like 30 meters, but like I can't make it. So I took a knee. And I put my hand on the ground, and then I open my eyes. My face is on the stuff like that. By the way, it's fucking torrents in the summer, so it's really hot. So all the gravel on the right side of my face just melted into my face. And no one came to check on me. They see me asleep on the parking lot, right? With my face on the pavement like this. No one even checked on me. I would have expected at least to come and take a picture or a selfie of me passed out. But yeah, so I don't know how long it took, but a minute or two. I'm hoping past 2 minutes they would have come to see what was happening. But I literally opened my eyes going like, I don't remember laying down. But the gravel is deep into my face. And it was super hot. Yeah, it burned my face. And I was like, you motherfuckers, no one checked on me? It's like, well, we thought you were like, yeah, oh yeah. So I remember that one. So that was a harness, which was where you put the most weight, and when we started Richard in the last year at the gym, like the 2 of us, we put so much weight on that shit because he became like that. It was what guys do, no?
Ego.
Not ego, because he was getting ready for that grid. And grid was very heavy for reps and everything, but then we would do that, and then if we had like heavy sandbag carries somewhere, if I had the juice or whatever, and then if we could, we'd finish with a 200 meter sled, which was so painful. So, oh no, you don't understand. That session, like people did not sleep well on Friday night. You had nightmares about it on Friday night because you know what was coming the next day. I just couldn't wait for it. Like Saturday morning, I had my carb stuff that I would drink because I need, and then after that I had it during the workout because I need to be able to do 3 hours because there's just so much energy spent. So I had specific drinks for it. It was carbolene, I remember. That was the shit. I would get so much carbs in just to make sure I could last the 3 hours. No, not really. The managing, the business side of it, I really don't miss. I miss, like, would I have a place and do the Saturday sessions again? Fuck yeah. But now that people know me and everything, it's not the same thing. Like when they came, like we tried at the gym in Utrecht, but people came to be coached. And I told them, frankly, like this is my session. Like you come to train with me, not to be trained by me. Like it's not the same. And nah. Every time I ended up coaching. It wasn't the same. It wasn't the same. Because it has to be done slowly, but like if people come, like they would come with a very specific idea now. So I don't think I can recreate it like that. It would have to be like I have a main coach who takes care of it and me, I'm just training. Stuff like that. That I would like to do. But having a gym, the managing people, coaches, having employees, the whole stuff, nah. Like I admire all of you with that. Like the business side is rough. It'd be fun. But it's also rough. I mean, I don't know. Never say never. You never know, right? But oof, would have to be very, very specific to what I want to do and what I want to do only. Like I would be I'd be a bitch of a boss because it would have to be my way. It's very specifically. I mean, so I don't know. Maybe one day we'll see. Anyway, we're running out of space on the camera, so. I wanted to tell a little bit of the story of back then. And again, as a business thing, I think that session for me at least was the most important one. Yeah. Sounds good?
Sounds good.
Pleasure everybody.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye.